see Drusilla and you're like, wow, what a bitch.
Apparently, the getting shot bit is fine, but only if they did it in the alley.
She's expecting like a full facelift because God forbid you have laugh lines. God, thank God. Thank God for Effie. Jesus. 2 raging book nerds, 14 years of friendship, and 1 burning question.
If Katniss Everdeen posted on Reddit, would she be the arsehole?
Welcome to Once Upon a Red Flag. This season, we're stepping into Panem, where every tribute, tyrant, and mentor gets their day in the Am I the Asshole courtroom.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Rachel.
And join us while we read between the red flags and break down the Hunger Games, one questionable decision at a time. Welcome back, everybody, to Once Upon a Red Flag. We're so happy to have you here with us for episode 20, which is insane. We are actually nearing the end of our Hunger Games season, and since we've made it finally to the arseholes in Sunrise on the Reaping, which is arguably going to be my favourite section.
Yeah, I think you're happiest that we finally got around to this point. But this does mean, though, that because we're on Sunrise, after this, we have officially run out of Hunger Games books until Suzanne Collins decides if/when she will lovingly grace us with more trauma to dissect. So that's weird.
Like, how does it feel to kind of be talking about the final, at least the current final book? I feel like we always ask this question, but 20 episodes and 5 books discussed is like a pretty big milestone, and we're kind of, I guess, just celebrating our achievement.
Yeah, I keep thinking about like how like on the current like timeline and trajectory for like where we're at, by the time we hit season 2 being posted, because we just keep making this longer and longer and longer than ever intended. Our mid-season break is now no longer mid-season because we just keep adding episodes. But by the time we finish season 1 and get to season 2, we'll have had like a podcast online for a whole year. Hopefully that'll be like more years after that. But that's wild. Like,
it is wild.
A full
really wild.
year. And yeah, we want to continue and stuff, but like we can't predict the future, and we're already collecting ideas for next seasons and stuff. But like that in itself is mad. That we are at the end of a season and we're rereading books for seasons coming up, and we haven't even finished production on the first one. It's mad. It's wild.
It is wild. It's really wild. It just started as just like kind of like a vague idea, and now, well, this is episode 20, and then soon all the Hunger Games episodes are going to be done. But we're doing something like a little bit different from now on. Like, we're going to skip our usual icebreaker discussion and kind of get straight into the Am I the Arsehole post.
Yeah, I need to apologise to my mother. Because she loves those discussions the most. Sorry, Mum. We've just moved it to the end. Like, so for anyone who wants like all the Hunger Games stuff all the time, all the book stuff all the time, just skip the ending. Just skip the ending. You don't need to. But like, you get to go straight into the assholes from now on within the first 5 minutes, which I'm very, very excited about. Mum watches the full video anyway, so it doesn't really matter. She's still gonna get the little discussion. And I'm sorry, Mum, but needs must. She's hardly inconvenienced. It's fine.
And since we left the original trilogy, there's been kind of less and less light moments to discuss, and leaving these episodes feeling like very heavy. So a nice little bookish palate cleanser at the end of the video can maybe like reset us kind of out of the doom and gloom we can fall into when, you know, like we discussed child murder and evil presidents and squashed rebellions. Yeah, it's heavy.
Yeah, none of that leaves you with the warm fuzzies, does it? Let's be honest.
No.
But with that being said, speaking of child murder and evil presidents and quashed rebellions, let's get into today's post.
Okay, so the post title for the day is Am I the Arsehole for treating my tributes like the district scum they are? And the username is Reaper Queen. Lovely. Love that. So, I am the escort for District 12 during the annual Hunger Games. Let's be honest, my job does not allow for career progression. I've been stuck with this district for far too many years, being handed 2 tributes, covered in coal dust, lacking basic manners, and somehow I need to turn them into stars. My career depends on being able to make well-respected capital citizens see past the fact that these guys are the biggest longshot in the world, have them make money, and do this often enough that I'm promoted to a better district with more screen time and an easier life. This task is impossible. I cannot perform miracles on the unwashed, the uneducated, and frankly, the unmotivated. Lovely. And this year, I have twice as many miscreants to handle. The capital decided the quarter quell would mean 2 boys and 2 girls from each district are reaped. So my job is twice as hard. Whoever thought this up is making my life miserable, and some idiot peacekeeper took 5 years off my life when he shot a tribute and I had to clean up his mess in the space of 5 minutes. But am I rewarded for my efforts? Of course not. This year's crop is the worst I have dealt with. One is, by his own admission, the worst possible tribute to bet on. One is actively going out of his way to make my life harder and go against the game makers at every possible turn. And the girls aren't much better. The youngest somehow got stupider when she got to the capital, and the other is the bitchiest teenage girl you will ever meet. She won't recognize when she is beaten, literally, and back down from a fight. How she expects this tactic to help her survive, I will never know. I refuse to put any effort into these kids. I will do my job to the standards I am expected to, and that is that. I will be doing just enough to make sure these idiots don't make me look bad, but that is all I can do. I am not wasting my precious time on District 12. I'm a realist. If these kids wanted to be treated like humans, they should have been born into a civilized district. Am I the arsehole for refusing to do anything more for these tributes than listed in my capital contract? If Heavensby wants to waste his time, he can, but it won't get him very far. We've both been lumped with the hardest job, and wrangling District 12 brats is not how I chose to spend my summer. Okay, so as we said earlier, we've finally made it to my favourite prequel, and that means we are now out of the head of snow, which is amazing news for all of our mental health.
For now. For now. Because unfortunately, we are going to have to talk about him again at a later date. Because he is still doing some questionable shit in this book as well. But we do have a small reprieve. It's a very small reprieve, but we do. Thank God.
Okay, but we cannot start talking about Sunrise on the Reaping without first addressing the 40-year difference from Ballad, where we previously were, and what state kind of Pan Am and the Hunger Games are in this point. So our last games we were discussing, the 10th games, was very much like kind of run and hatchet, throw them all in, send the victor home and kind of forget about them. By the time we get to Haymitch's games, the 50th Hunger Games, the second quarter quell, things are drastically different. We now have careers coming out of Districts 1, 2 and 4, and we now have tribute stylists, individual quarters, training sessions, more elaborate sponsors, tribute financial winnings, victor villages, victor tours, victor mentors, chaperones, and an opening chariot procession. Not to mention that the games themselves have unique arenas, which is much more sophisticated and creative technology. And this is no longer like some gladiator style forgot about event. This is a yearly staple of people's lives. Coriolanus Snow is obviously now the president and has been for several decades, and has clearly implemented twofold a lot of the ideas he had to make the games more interesting to the capital citizens. He has also put an iron grip on the districts, even more so than there was before, and has, as we will discuss in a later episode, clearly started killing off people using his chosen method, poison.
Yeah, there's the amount of propaganda that is like pasted everywhere in this world is insane. But the Hunger Games is still a far cry from what it will become. So it has the appearance of being flashier, but the reality of that is a little less well executed. Drunk capital citizens are literally surrounding the opening ceremony event, and they're risking tributes' lives by throwing fireworks at horses during the whole procession. They're still using handcuffs and lugging tributes around in the backs of vans, which is not something that we see in the original trilogy at all. And it's an old gym at the academy that is being used to disinfect the tributes, and it's the hall that they use for training. But during the prep session before the opening ceremonies, gone is this individual room that Katniss goes in where she's stripped naked and she's only seen by her prep team. Every tribute is in this hall, sectioned off with curtains, covered in crepe paper, because they've burned and cut away all their clothes. So they have no modesty, and everyone's being worked on in this same room. The mentors may be victors now compared to academy students, and the stylists themselves are adults as well. But the prep teams are university students. They're still out for a grade. Thankfully, though, they are like older now by about, 2 years? I think Vitus and Prosperina say they're like second years. So they're 20 as opposed to 18. So it's not actually that much better, really. Just a bit less child engagement for the original tributes. They can now consent to being like risked around tributes. But the budget, all the budget that Panem has, that the Capitol has for these Hunger Games, is currently going into what Panem sees on screen. Behind the scenes, it's still an absolute catastrophe.
And you'd expect more, right? This is another quarter quell. We obviously discussed the 75th games, the third quarter quell in our episodes on the original trilogy, where the tributes that were reaped were pulled from the existing pool of victors, which we know didn't go very well for Snow. And if you want to hear more about all of that, go and check out those episodes if you haven't already, because it was an in-depth and beefy convo around Catching Fire. But this is the second quarter quell, the 50th Hunger Games. We find out pretty quickly from Hamage that the twist for the second quarter quell is that each district will be required to send double the amount of tributes to the games this time. That means 2 girls and 2 boys having a total of 48 tributes. 48 tributes. Like, it just is really sickening. And you can think about it a lot when you read it. But Rachel, I am scared for when we see it on the big screen in November, because I think it is hard for the brain to visualize that many kids dying. Like, poor Hamage to have been a part of that. And as I mentioned, the games are now meant to be more sophisticated and game show-like, more like what we're kind of accustomed to with the original trilogy of books. And for this episode, we are talking about District 12's chaperone, Drusilla. Honestly, she really is a piece of work and really made me miss Effie as a chaperone so much. Yes, Effie would say tone-deaf things, but she would never do some of the stuff that we will discuss that Drusilla does in this episode. Some of her actions are like just honestly horrific. Just so horrific.
Yeah, and it's really hard not to compare Drusilla to Effie, because Effie is the chaperone that you have seen. And that you're used to, and then you see Drusilla and you're like, wow, what a bitch. So we will be comparing Drusilla to Effie because we kind of have to. But let's start by talking a bit about Drusilla Sickle. Before we get into talking about the heinous shit that she does, I want to talk about where she may have come from quickly, because we have indeed heard the last name Sickle before. Fandom.com was also quick to point out the meaning of sickle, obviously being the implement used to harvest crops, or, used when reaping crops.
Clever.
It isn't. Yeah, it is. And it isn't obviously the thing that is used by the Grim Reaper to harvest souls. Yeah, so the Grim Reaper, he is carrying a sickle or a scythe. Like,
didn't actually know
whichever
that
one you want to call it.
until
same
right now.
thing.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between a sickle and a scythe? Let's find out.
No.
Quickly.
No
Sickle
idea.
versus scythe. Sickle is a small handheld tool, and the scythe's a large, long handle. So it's the same blade, effectively, but one's smaller than the other.
Makes
so
sense.
really, sickle is accurate because it's a very, very precise reaping. 1 or 2 kids, not the whole crop. So do with that information what you will. But we also came across the last name Sickle in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So Agrippina Sickle was the gym teacher at the academy who had Sejanus as her student aide.
Right.
And she had a niece called Vipsania Sickle, who was also a mentor alongside Sejanus and Coriolanus. But neither of them really left a big impression on me as being anything special. They weren't particularly nice or cruel by capital standards at all. And we don't know how they're related. But with the same last name from the capital, it would stand to reason that somehow Drusilla is in their family tree.
Yeah.
Whether it's close or distant, we don't know. but it's from the same sort of lineage, effectively.
Mm.
But the name Drusilla also apparently means strong or mighty. Once again,
Ironic.
thank you, fandom.com. But if you put that together with her last name, Strong Reaper is effectively what she is called. She was kind of born for this job, unfortunately. She is the one who is plucking the names of these tributes from the bowls and escorting them to the capital. She is literally bringing in her harvest from the reaping, and she is the weapon used to do that precise harvesting.
With a name like that, maybe we should put the blame on our parents.
Yeah, I think she was kind of
awful.
like forcing. She was literally born for this. This was her destiny. She had no escape. It was always going to be like this.
And like,
so sad.
Obviously, the first time we meet Drusilla is at the District 12 reaping, which makes sense because, as we know, Drusilla would have absolutely no reason to go to 12 otherwise. So she comes out onto this stage in like this god-awful yellow military jacket outfit and with these like thumbtacks on like the side of her face, which we assume is to kind of like achieve like a facelift look, right? Which makes me think that facial alterations, which weren't huge in Ballad, have kind of become the fashion 40 years later. And the whole description of her really makes her look like a walking and talking like capital mouthpiece doll, like creepy doll.
Yeah, I think we'll be referencing Effie a lot throughout this, and Effie does make a comment later on. And Effie, at this point, she's prospering as older sister, and there's no age given for Effie, but I want to say she's like mid-20s.
Yeah,
about at this point in time. And Effie makes a comment about how she should start having work done because all her friends already had started having work done, and she's too scared of needles. And she mentioned this to Haymitch. So at 25, still in the height of youth, Effie believes it is time that she starts having work done. And it is unclear whether she is referencing Botox, lip fillers, nose jobs, I don't know, or whether she's expecting like a full facelift because God forbid you have laugh lines. But to keep the Effie comparisons going on longer, because she's our only frame of reference for the job that Drusilla does, Effie's choices when we meet her, I don't know how you felt about it, but I always see Effie's clothing descriptions as whimsical in choice of fashion. I see her as going sort of like having fun with it, but never going into it the same way that some people do, like Drusilla. District citizens may think everything looks stupid, even on Effie, because it just seems so wild compared to what they're used to. But it's not as bad as the impression that you get when you see how Drusilla is described, because her hat, apparently, according to Haymitch, makes her look like a deranged daffodil.
That's funny.
But it's not, but it is funny, but it's not funny to look at.
Yeah.
Because she's actually evil. And you combine that with the military jacket and the thigh-high boots and the colour lemon yellow, like lemon yellow, thigh-high boots, just a military jacket. It's giving some sort of like deranged daffodil dominatrix. I'm not going to lie to you. And then she whips out a freaking riding crop.
Yeah.
She's carrying a riding crop. If this isn't giving dominatrix, I don't know what is.
I think
and obviously, you know, we're going to question her fashion sense a lot with this because that's not a good look.
I think a lot of that design stuff is also going to play into the film when it comes out in November.
It's going to be so good to look at.
Have you seen the trailer now?
I have seen one trailer.
Okay.
I saw after I read this book and made all my notes on it. A trailer popped up. And it was the second trailer, and I watched that one, and I haven't gone back and watched the first one yet either, because I was like, I can let myself watch a bit now. Now I've done all the notes, know what I'm saying.
I'm just really interested to see how they try and pull these outfits together on the screen because they look interesting. Anyway,
the costume design is always phenomenal.
Yeah. We're going to talk about Haymitch is reaped more in his episodes and why in the Doves episode, but we also need to talk about it a little here too because it is absolutely insane, and Drusilla's reaction to it is even more insane. And I think this shocked us all the first time we read it. Well, at least it really shocked me. Like, the girls get reaped first, as always, because ladies first, and that's Llewellyn McCoy and Maisley Donner. And then we move on to the boys, and Wyatt Callow's name gets called out. So obviously we're all expecting Hamish Abernathy's name to be the next name to come out of Drusilla's mouth, but it's not. It's Woodbine Chance, and he's taken a chance. He legs it. He full on legs it. And I don't know if this has ever happened in any of the other reapings in kind of any of the districts, but this boy does not want to stick around to be shipped off to capital death. And you know, who could blame him? He even kind of says to us, like, the Chance family have lost a lot of their members of the family to the rope, since they seem to be kind of a rebellious family historically. And so this is probably like an instinct to flee kind of like kicking in here. But did he really think this would save him? That he would somehow be able to hide from the capital and go on living his life? Or did he just want to go out quick? Like now he had been sentenced to death. We will never really know what was going through his mind, because seconds later he's literally shot in the head. But the whole kind of reaping from then on turns into chaos. Now, these reapings are meant to be live, or at least they're filmed as live. But as it turns out, this is not the case. Drusilla basically starts screaming and has a go at the peacekeeper who shot him, berating him for making a mess and asking him if he couldn't have done it in the alley to not disturb the shot for TV. Like, Drusilla, my love, a boy has just been shot in the head. Apparently, the getting shot bit is fine, but only if they did it in the alley, because now she has to fix the mess the peacekeepers have caused. That is what she is annoyed about.
Yeah, and she's got 5 minutes to do it in. And this 5 minutes here could be longer, personally. This 5 minutes is needed to clean up the dead body of Woodbine Chance and redo the reaping.
Yeah.
Because obviously, they can't air the fact that they called his name out and the guy died, and now someone else is taking his place. So, let's talk about the scene that they need to reset, because to Drusilla, that is all it is. It is a scene to be reshot. No one's like actually dead that she cares about, so it's fine to her. So in this scene of Drusilla's, Woodbine is dead on the floor. His mother is wailing, understandably. Lenore Dove is helping his mother fight a peacekeeper for Woodbine Chance's body, and most of the citizens are on the ground, yielding to peacekeepers, on their knees, head pressed to the floor, hands behind their backs, trying to protect their own lives. Now, the peacekeepers also did not just shoot Woodbine Chance and have done with it. That's far too freaking simple, right? They have been firing into the crowd, mostly as a warning, so that no one else starts like getting ideas. But they've also been like hitting people. Like, these guys may carry guns, but they definitely are not certified marksmen.
No,
they're hitting people.
Yeah.
They're catching people at the edges of the crowd. They're causing an even greater mess, effectively, for Drusilla to clean up. And we can start assuming already that if anyone's going to get the blame for them being unable to air the District 12 reaping, it's going to be Drusilla who gets the blame for allowing this stuff to go down under her command as the highest, quote-unquote, person, highest in the room. So she actually does kind of have her work cut out for her in the space of 5 minutes. I'm sorry, if you gave me that scene, I think I'd crawl into a corner and break down crying. 5 minutes and nothing would get done.
Rachel,
I'd be so overwhelmed, I'd be like, I can't deal with this.
Rachel, you don't work in the film business. I mean, people don't die on a daily basis, but like stuff like that happens a lot, where it's just like everything's going wrong. That's happened. This has happened. Oh my God, disaster. And then like your producer is like, you can fix it. I'm like, sure.
Thanks for volunteering me for that job.
And Drusilla is very, very stressed about this whole thing. She starts yelling at people to get rid of the bloody ones. And so peacekeepers start shoving anyone who is marked with blood and gore into shops to hide them from sight so they can redo the reaping in an orderly manner. Terrible.
Yeah. I'm probably going to make us feel a little bit sick. But can I quickly mention the food standards violation that is cramming people covered in blood and brain matter into a sweet shop? Can we just think about that for a second? Because I think I may have just halved my sugar intake for the week. I think I'm off Haribo's now for the foreseeable.
Oh, yeah, like Drusilla clearly does not care about that. Like, she doesn't care about anything but herself. They're trying to get rid of Woodbine's body, and the Lord Dove is obviously making a fuss with Woodbine's mother, and Drusilla tells the peacekeepers to shoot her as well. She is insanely trigger happy, perfectly fine with killing young kids and their families. So obviously this is when Hamish jumps in to save Lenore Dove because he's a good protective boyfriend, even at that age. And a peacekeeper is about to hit Lenore Dove in the head with the butt of his rifle, and Hamish takes the hit instead. Someone then drops Hamish at Drusilla's feet, and her response? Well, we've just found our replacement. Lovely. Drusilla then decides that she needs to restage both boys being reaped, so makes Wyatt Callow go back to his place in the audience so he can call both his name and Hamish's name because it will make for a smoother take. And what does she say to Hamish to get him to do what she says and not kick up a fuss about this illegal reaping? She says, "Play this right or I'll shoot you myself." And she, meaning Lenore Dove, can watch. What the actual hell? It's so messed up.
Yeah. And Plutarch backs this threat up, right? Because Plutarch's there as well. He's directing the camera, obviously, getting all the BTS, all the B-roll and stuff. He's working with Drusilla. And he literally says, she will kill him with a snap if he messes up. So he is full on reinforcing that Drusilla is serious about this death threat. And then Drusilla makes this big deal about remembering both boys' names, since like she obviously can't exactly pull them out of the bowl again. That would never work. So she now has to remember their names. And makes a comment about how Hamish's name is too long or something.
It's Abernathy bit.
And I'm like, I'm sorry. This is your this is what you're going to fixate on, the length of Hamish's name, not the fact that you've just illegally reaped him and Woodbine Chance is dead, and this is somehow your big plan. Drusilla has decided this is what is happening, and so she is going to let this happen. And I need to ask, like, was any of this really the easiest choice, right? Because Plutarch has to get reaction shots now. They have to like fake shock and anguish, and all this stuff now has to be not genuine. Could she really just not have had a peacekeeper remove Hamish and Lenore Dove to be locked up, and then just pull another boy's name? And then the reaction shot would have been genuine. Or did the peacekeepers actually have to remove that many people from the audience, covered in blood and gore, that there was a chance that any name pulled out of the bowl would not have worked? Did they actually fuck up like that badly that this illegal reaping was her only choice now, and it just aligned with her cruel streak? I don't know what you think, because I also came up with the idea of this would be a punishment for Lenore Dove kicking up a fuss, but that seems more like a Snow choice than Drusilla choice. Because that seems more like just like caring to punish an individual person, not to make her life easier.
I just think Drusilla can't really think more than a couple of steps ahead, and was like, oh no, wait, this boy will do, and then decided to kind of roll with that instead of what would have made the most sense, which would have just been to have reaped someone from scratch. New.
Do it again.
Would have made the most sense, but nothing ever makes any sense.
Definitely not in her brain.
Yeah, and right before the camera is about to go live, 5-minute delay, over, and this second boy reaping is actually live now. All the District 12 is like whispering to each other about what on earth is happening, because obviously this has never happened before. What are they meant to do? And Drusilla shouts if they don't shut up, they will all be killed. All of them. And then peacekeepers fire bullets into the air to reinforce this message. Drusilla really doesn't care about anything but how successfully she's managed to cover up the former chaos. She is totally fine with threatening to wipe out an entire district of kids. Somehow they get through this whole thing. And then she starts clapping. And obviously they have like canned applause on hand because no one in the district is going to clap for like the deaths of their kids. So the camera shuts off, Drusilla slumps, lights up a cigarette, and gets handed a glass of champagne. She basically celebrates her achievement in making it look like any other reaping, watching confetti fall on District 12 and then demands that the peacekeepers get the filthy beasts away from her before the smell gets in her hair. Like, she really has more concern for the TV and her career than she does for the lives of the district kids. She even says that, if nothing else, the story of this reaping will be a good tale to tell at Capitol dinner parties. I think Haymitch realizes that later. It does not matter that Haymitch wasn't properly reaped. They have the correct number of boys and girls from District 12 going into the arena. That is all the Capitol wants. Haymitch's life doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that isn't the end of it either, because Drusilla is so pissed off that she has been made to work so hard at her job that
God
she gets
forbid.
paid for.
Uh-huh.
God forbid. That she says these people don't deserve to say goodbye to their families at all. They can go straight to the train and wait for departure, and that's it. And they don't have that privilege anymore. Four kids don't get to say goodbye to their families, let alone Haymitch, whose family thought for a second there when they called Woodbine's name. There must have been that relief that it wasn't Haymitch. And yet he doesn't get that anymore. They can go straight to the train, wait for departure. You don't get that privilege. Now, Plutarch steals Haymitch, so they get some reaction shots for his family, since there wasn't much chance to get that during the actual reaping because that 5-minute delay vanished and it was actually live. And Plutarch wants some extra footage, and he sort of barters a bit of time there for Haymitch specifically. But even when doing this, Drusilla is making this huge deal about how they only have 5 minutes or the train's going to leave them there. Because she refuses to stay in the hellhole for a minute longer than necessary. And then when they do get on the train, it doesn't leave for a whole hour. Would it actually have inconvenienced her in any way, shape, or form? Even if it would have been she's being a bitch as inconvenienced as she wants to go, would it have actually inconvenienced her at all to let these kids say goodbye to their families when the train isn't even leaving? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then all this is for Drusilla, this entire interaction is a power trip, right? Can it be anything else other than a power trip? I can understand her being annoyed at the incompetence of peacekeepers for making more work for her than necessary. You know, all the stress that comes with that. The guy could have ran off and kept it, and Woodbine could have legged it, and the scene of hers would have been preserved. Valid, fair enough. If that's what you choose to be worried about rather than this kid's death, you're a bitch, but I can't change that. I can understand all of that to an extent, all the stress that comes with that. But she was being a bitch before that even happened. And I get the feeling that this is just her personality.
Yeah.
She just feels like she is better than everyone there. Peacekeepers and Plutarch probably included. And we have to compare this to how Effie hosts reapings, right? Because Effie may be clueless and tone deaf, but she's not a stone cold bitch like Drusilla. So what is the difference between the two? Does it just come down to personality? Does it come down to something in how they were raised? Because we do get hints about Effie when she mentions that the Trinket family has a history of that's not so great, not so capsule worthy.
Yeah.
Do you think she's just more sympathetic because she's had whatever went down in her family and that's the reason? Because I always feel like Effie actually does care about the kids she takes with her.
I think the difference is purely the personalities. It is kind of the situation when either a good person or a bad person gets put in a position of power. So both of them are brainwashed. Either way you look at it, they're both brainwashed. But I think Effie is a good person who's brainwashed and in a position of power, and Drusilla is a bad person who is brainwashed and in a position of power. Which is honestly, that is the three-pointed triangle for the worst person you will ever encounter is someone who is a bad person, brainwashed, and in a position of power. They are arguably kind of some of the most dangerous people you will ever meet. I think that's the difference.
As we're talking about this now, I'm drawing parallels between the way Drusilla behaves and the things that Dr. Gall believes. Maybe it's because I was sort of working on the last lot of episodes yesterday in terms of the edits for them. But if you think about Drusilla, she refers to these kids as filthy beasts a lot. And now that is the capital party line, sure, but it's not how Plutarch thinks. It's not how other members of the capital think, even within this book. You see the game makers later on who go into the arena when they're fixing it, and they seem to be all bluster. They don't seem to believe that they are above. They're kind of like I'm in a bad position right now and I don't understand if they killed me kind of thing. They don't seem to be as out for people's deaths in the same way that Drusilla just seems to not care. And I guess I do want to compare Drusilla to Plutarch there in terms of like the beliefs that she has that Plutarch doesn't. Even though they're both capital and they both have a lineage that goes back to, because obviously we see, is it Hilarious, Heavensby, and the Heavensby legacy. With Plutarch, we see them as members of capital like aristocracy, kind of higher ups, whatever. They are like big money at the 10th games. So somehow, somewhere along the line, the beliefs that Dr. Gall was spouting have really like put themselves into some people. And Drusilla's probably more like Snow than she is Plutarch.
Yeah.
And that's scary when you think of there's two President Snows almost in this book.
And if only Drusilla being a bitch actually stopped the reaping. But no. There are no mentors yet to take the tributes to the capital, no district faces to kind of bridge the gap, and Drusilla is their escort and Plutarch is their cameraman, and that is it for responsible adults in charge. They are on their train, on the way to the capital, and all 4 tributes are with Drusilla and Plutarch, watching the reaping from other districts. And we'll be talking about everything that happens on the train in multiple different episodes, so this is not going to be like a complete overview. But Drusilla unbuttons her jacket and flounces around the train car with her underwear on display, because apparently that is all she's wearing beneath that jacket. And this is in front of Plutarch and all the underage tributes, who are effectively a bunch of random children she doesn't know. Like, is this not massively inappropriate?
I think at this point, Drusilla is not sober enough to care. So Haymitch says that she has a tall red drink garnished with vegetables, and she is tottering in doorways, eating celery from this glass, asking Plutarch how old she looked on camera, and slurring her words when she is making bitchy comments about another district escort looking ghastly, apparently, in bright sunlight. So does anyone want to hazard a guess exactly how many Bloody Marys we think she has had at this point? On top of how many glasses of champagne do you think she had between that first one being handed to her on the stage in front of the Justice Building and climbing onto the train? This woman is hammered.
The ironic thing is, if she wanted to look younger, she should just cut out alcohol from her diet.
Yeah.
That's going to make her look older. Like, just a bit of advice there, Drusilla. And what is that saying, right? A drunk mind speaks sober thoughts, apparently. Because if she was cruel and calculated before, she has now just lost, like, all filter. And Haymitch says she isn't even being mean when she sees kind of some of, like, the taller, muscular, and, like, all-round scarier tributes, and simply says, you lot better be able to run. And the fact that she isn't even being cruel and is just speaking the truth makes it even harder for these District 12 tributes to hear. She is calling them savage district piglets, so the animal references kind of keep on coming. And she really genuinely means this, like really honestly thinks of them in this way. Despite doing this job for, 25 years, she has fully bought into this capital party line of the districts being beneath them. And I think this kind of goes back to what I was saying about Drusilla being a bad person, brainwashed, and in a position of power.
Yeah.
I think it's honestly fair to say that Drusilla has a horrible personality and is just an awful person. It's really easy to see that the only reason she is a tribute chaperone is because she wants a TV career. Like, she keeps talking about that. Like, she is constantly obsessed with Plutarch making her look good, and essentially feeds off of his compliments from people on how she looks and if she came off well, and if people were impressed with her, like impressed with her efforts to make the reaping look good and not be a mess. Like, she gets such a kick when Plutarch says that Drusilla pulled off a seamless transition between the reapings and that you wouldn't even be able to tell, that a kid died. And I feel like she's rubbing her fingers together, thinking about the raise or the promotion it might give her. Absolutely no care that in this process, 5 kids, 1 already dead, are probably going to die, including anybody they accidentally shot in the reaping crowd. She tells them, I know. She tells them that they should be kissing Plutarch's feet because instead of being 4 savage piglets or something in that vein, they are now more attractive and shown as wanting to go to the games instead, which she basically argues will help them.
I think Drusilla has the meanest mean streak I had ever come across. What does she think she stands to gain from the way she treats people? Like, genuinely. So let's use Maisie Lee to really illustrate this point here, because it starts with the comment Drusilla makes about Luella's clothes. And they're talking about how the tributes are going to get mentors and stylists and prep teams and all that jazz, getting like the TV treatment. So they can get sponsors. And Luella holds her own when Drusilla says, like, where on earth you people find these clothes? And Maisie Lee might have a reputation for being the most stuck-up person in the district. But she is not going to let Drusilla talk down to her or anyone around them. And Drusilla, of all people, is not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, and we'll be going more into Maisie Lee's actions and reactions in her own episode because this girl deserves it. But she pushes Drusilla a little bit too far, gets a bit too gobby, and Drusilla, without really giving it much thought at all, gets out a riding crop and starts beating her with it, leaving welts and cuts all over her arms before the games. Like, this is a child, and she sees absolutely nothing wrong with that and won't be held accountable for her actions either.
So it's Plutarch who gets Drusilla to stop doing this. And he starts by trying to say that she is doing too much damage and they need Maisie Lee on camera tomorrow. And obviously Drusilla's making it as a harder job for the prep team to like clean up Maisie Lee and make her look good afterwards. And Drusilla, who has literally spent 5 minutes stressed to high heaven trying to fix the reaping of a kid being shot and all the issues that causes, doesn't then care that she's undermining her own efforts by making Maisie Lee be brutally attacked. Where she thinks this image of Maisie Lee on TV at the reaping pristine and then turning up to the Capitol covered in cuts and welts and bruises, how she thinks that's gonna fly, I don't know. But she doesn't care at all about the damage she's inflicting. Plutarch has to get 2 peacekeepers out of the corridor on the train to haul Drusilla off Maisie Lee. And Drusilla's shouting at Maisie Lee that she'll destroy her. I mean, Maisie Lee is on her way to her death. Not really much else Drusilla can do to destroy her now, is there?
Yeah.
But I really want to hone in on something Maisie Lee says to Drusilla. Because Drusilla points out that Maisie Lee is heading for a bloody and agonizing death, is what she says. And Maisie Lee basically goes, tell me something I don't know.
Yeah.
But then she says, and I quote, so why should I care what you say? Unless I win, of course. But even then, who do you think will be more popular? The victor of the quarter quell or you? And Maisie Lee is right. What does Drusilla hope to accomplish by being so hateful to these tributes? They are on their way to die in the Hunger Games. They don't have a single district mentor because no one from 12 ever wins the games. They are actively the biggest long shot in the world. So does Drusilla really think some hurtful words about Luella's dress is really going to mean all that much to them in the grand scheme of things? You can't really knock someone down a peg or 2 when they're already at rock bottom, so why are you wasting your energy? They have no power. What is she trying to achieve? Is it simply a case of people in the Capitol just shit all over Drusilla because of her age and the fact that she's never actually gotten anyone from 12 to win, and no one's ever like won her prestige from that. And so she shits all over other people lesser than her. And there aren't that many people in her circle lesser than her. Is she the bottom rung in the whole thing? And that same idea of whoever's above you craps on you, so you go home and crap on your kids or whatever, like in the chain of aggression that supposedly, like, you've seen it on like social media, right, where they go, your boss yells at you, so you go home and yell at your kid, trying to get the anger out. Is it that Drusilla's facing all the time, and that's why she's doing this? Is it the Snow White evil queen effect even? Because the one thing Drusilla wants is youth and beauty, and she's so jealous of those who have it. Is that the thing? Because that one would make sense for hatred towards Maisie Lee, and I think at some point someone says that to Maisie Lee to be like, she's just jealous because you're young and she's not. But then she's a dick to everyone else as well. So does she just want to feel superior to anyone? Anyone at all?
I think she just thinks she is superior and that she's better and she's the best, but it also could be that maybe she's like greatly insecure and, you know, is old and aging and hasn't really, like, she wants a TV career, but she's kind of past her prime for a TV career, so she's kind of becoming bitter and then taking it out on everyone. I think there's a lot of things going on with Drusilla, which could,
because she's not even just like turning her nose up at them. You think other people who think they're better than other people will just snub you and be like, okay, whatever you said doesn't matter to me, and then walk off. You think if she was actually just fully like secure in herself and like her power of being above them, that she would just not interact with them at all? But she goes out of her way to be spiteful, where it does really feel like she's trying to kick them down. And I'm like, they're already at rock bottom. What are you going to achieve by this?
And like Drusilla, like, probably does have a lot to be insecure about. And I'm not even gonna discuss some of Drusilla's very fashionable, questionable outfits. Like, one is literally a jumpsuit featuring the flag of Panem on it. Like, how horrid. But the team around her for District 12 isn't doing her any favors and making her job any easier. The stylist for District 12 is Magno Stift, and this is the guy who puts District 12 into the same baggy coal mining outfits year after year after year. And she's also married to him, right? Or was married to him. I think...
Yeah, we'll get into that.
I know. I think Magno, like, he sets this trend and it continues all the way up to Cinna taking over in the 74th games. And Magno promises a shiny new look for the Quarter Quell celebrations. And all he means by that is that he replaces the batteries in the headlamps. It's a wonder he still has a job.
Yeah, that bit when he's like, you promised a shiny brand new look. And he's like, let's see, ta-da! And you're like,
oh my God.
Oh God, it lights up. Oh God, are you serious? Are you actually serious? Genuinely, I think Drusilla says like that it's a wonder that he'll have a job and he'll be fired for this, because before the opening ceremony, like, he is running so late that everyone is worried they're going to have to climb onto their opening ceremony chariot in their makeshift crepe paper robes. Crepe paper doesn't exactly leave much to the imagination. To be honest. So they're going to be literally like, their choice is to be naked on the chariot, because I don't think that crepe paper is going to survive a horse-drawn carriage. Do you? But Drusilla's biggest concern at this point in time is now that they're going to be late to one of the biggest parties of the year, because it's the kicking off of the second Quarter Quell of the Hunger Games. Now, Prosperina and Vitus are Haymitch's prep team, and they give us all the gossip surrounding Magno, right?
Yeah.
Because apparently, he likes to get high by licking toads.
Gross.
I wish I was joking, because on the surface, this seems like a very, very creative euphemism for hard drugs. And I honestly wish it was. But no, it's not, because Magno Stift seems to have some sort of reptile fetish as well. He's wearing garter snakes as earrings. He has a snapping turtle as a belt at one point, and appears backstage during the tribute interviews wearing a live snake. And so this reptile fetish, also stretches to amphibians, because the guy licks toads. And Vitus explains it's a risky practice done for fun, because some breeds of toad can make you hallucinate, and certain types of toad can kill you.
Yeah.
Magno does not care. And he doesn't care if live reptile fashion was banned at the Hunger Games after his turtle belt bit someone. That someone being Drusilla, I believe. He will still continue to do all of this crazy shit. And this is wild to me, right? Because this is something that people do in the capital, and yet the district citizens are the animals. The plan, this guy has scales tattooed on his body, and the district kids are the beasts in this scenario. And correctly, as you pointed out, what does Magno Stift have to do with Drusilla? Because she's married to him. They have been on again, off again spouses for years, and they hate each other. And yet, by the end of the book, none of that matters because they are back together again. Like, if this doesn't give you an insight into Drusilla as a person, I don't know what will. Because the district kids that she looks after are beasts and horrible and savage little piglets, okay? And she's married to a man who has a reptile fetish and licks toads. Please, someone make it make sense.
Oh my god. At least Drusilla doesn't really appear any more times in this book, but I do want to talk about the interview training. The tributes don't see Drusilla half as much as Katniss and Peter see Effie, but she does the interview prep with them. And you can imagine how Maisie spends her time during hers insulting Drusilla, but the most telling part is Drusilla's response to Lulu, because Lulu isn't Llewellyn McCoy, as we know, and we'll be going into what we think of that switch in another episode. But the real Luella is dead due to the game maker negligence during the opening ceremonies, and Snow delivers a doppelganger to take her place, which, if I may point out, is a much more sophisticated cover-up that Drusilla could never pull off. So Drusilla, who hasn't been around and doesn't know any of this, starts asking questions for Lulu's practice interview, and Lulu cannot reply apart from saying her name and that she is from District 12. Drusilla grabs her by the shoulders, shakes her and tells her to snap out of it, which triggers Lulu to start screaming, "You're murdering us," in Drusilla's face. Lulu, who is a convenient District 11 look-alike who has been through hell herself, is obviously very traumatized, but Drusilla goes to slap her. Haymitch, Maisie and Wyatt intervene, pulling Lulu away and explain the switch to Drusilla, and Maisie says even Lulu can see the obvious despite whatever torture she went through. She is well aware that the capital is murdering them, and Drusilla's response, because there are no peacekeepers around to back her up, direct quote, "That's not my department, your interviews are." There really are not enough words for this.
She really does not care about anything at all. Her biggest concern is whether Lulu can make her look bad. And since she learns about that kind of switcheroo that can only have come from the top, anything Lulu does cannot blow back on her. It cannot blow back on Drusilla. It wasn't her doing. It's not something she's failed at. And now it's not down to her now that Lulu can't perform her interview properly. So she doesn't have to care about Lulu anymore because it can't make her look bad. Similarly, like the ethics of the games aren't her department. Yeah, they might be murdering district kids, but that also has nothing to do with her. At least when Effie says they are horrible, but they really are for the best, the Hunger Games. Like, this is 25-year-old Effie in this book who says this. However tone deaf or brainwashed she sounds, at least she recognizes that these kids are dying.
Yeah.
She even turns around to them all and says, "You're all very brave for what you're going through and how you're handling it," kind of thing. At least she recognizes the atrocities, even if she thinks she can't do anything to fix it and so has to work with it and it's for the best. Drusilla, on the other hand, Drusilla is trying to convince Haymitch how to be the bad boy versus the rebel and sort of like keep the right balance between cheeky. And she brings up the fact that some student dyed the fountains pink because there was a shortage of face cream when she's trying to illustrate that line between bad boy and rebel. As if dyeing a fountain pink and the barbarism of a bunch of kids fighting to the death even belong in the same sentence together.
It's terrible.
Because Haymitch just started out his interview prep by trying to say, "Yo, well, I was illegally raped and I'm just here." And she's like, "No, you can't do that. It's going to undermine all the work I did." in getting to this point. Here, take this fountain guy. It was so cheeky and saucy and everyone loved it. But to her, the fountain and the Hunger Games, they're the exact same level of importance and relevance in her life. They are both simply a fleeting bit of entertainment. In fact, she was probably more upset about the face cream shortage than she was about the deaths of these kids.
And that is almost entirely it for Drusilla, because let's be honest, she was no bloody help at all while they're in the arena or keeping any of the tributes alive. And the last thing she did was see her tributes escorted into the van to take them to the arena and then kind of just warn them not to embarrass her. She didn't really care about their lives. I think that's been evident. That's what their mentors were technically there for. But this is only the first of many Sunrise on the Reaping episodes coming up, and we will have plenty of chances to talk about the group training, the alliances, the arena, etc., etc. But right now, I'm just jumping to just after the games, and if you don't know, Haymitch won. and then if you don't, then you really need to read the book and come back to this after. We never put spoiler alerts in these episodes because I feel like if you click on this video and you listen to the intro, you kind of should know what you're getting yourself into. But just in case you've made your way here accidentally, there's still time to read the book before we release any more episodes. But right at the end, when Effie comes to collect Haymitch for his victory tour 6 months later, she mentions that Drusilla broke her hip falling down an escalator, which is why Effie is there instead of Drusilla. And I find that really hard to believe after kind of obviously the mentors were also tortures and stuff. It just seems very convenient.
Yeah. I think as well, the reason it seems so mad, because I don't know, I was never putting Drusilla at an age where her falling down would break a hip. Not gonna lie to you. To me, that screams like 70s, 80s, and I was putting her more about 50s, to be honest. But also, Magno has been fired at this point for negligence or whatever, probably because of that coal miner outfit for a quarter quail again. So both of them are then out. So now you've gotten rid of Magno and Drusilla off the team. With both of them, it's a bit suspicious, isn't it? Let's be honest. If Magno had stuck around and just Drusilla had gone, that to me wouldn't scream as much foul play, but it does. So both of them are now out, and Effie takes over entirely. Now, it is super suspicious, but I don't know what to put this down to. Have they simply gone out of fashion and aged out of their positions, and so someone younger needs to take over the reins? And we know Effie interfered a lot to help her sister's grade out because she wasn't going to let Drusilla and Magno screw over her younger sister's education, and she is the youth that can come in, and she was conveniently there because she fixed it all. And then it would make sense that Drusilla's forced out if she was clinging on to her youth through dear life, clinging on to this job, refusing to leave, then push her down the stairs. Do you know what I mean? That makes sense. Or could it be because they obviously aren't part of the rebellion plot? Is it because they let the rebellion take root right under their noses because they got so complacent and they barely spent any time around the tributes keeping an eye on things? Could it be a bit of both?
I honestly think it's a bit of both. I think they're old, they're outdated, they're not helping, they're not really functioning for the Hunger Games. And then Haymitch basically did a big once over on the games and they weren't really around to actually chaperone them. And that's kind of how it happened. I think it was a bit of both. And honestly, I think good riddance.
Yeah, and I guess as well, you got to bear in mind now that I think if Haymitch hadn't won, they probably could have got away with Magno and Drusilla for a couple more years because the attention wouldn't be on 12. Whereas Haymitch's 12's first victor. So understandable there must be more interest in him going forward as a mentor now. So you'd want someone making Haymitch look good, and they clearly can't trust Drusilla and Magno. Though also, I'm kind of glad for Haymitch, for everything else that he goes through. Can you imagine if he rocked up to his first mentorship the following year and he had to put up with Drusilla?
Yeah.
Can you imagine how much worse that would have been for him?
I think it's a good thing Effie took over.
Horrific. God, thank God. Thank God for Effie. Jesus. And I think with all that said, it's time for a verdict. What percentage of asshole do we think Drusilla Sickle is?
She's 100% an arsehole through and through, and I think she's the exact embodiment of what is so awful about the Capitol and what is so awful about Snow's game showness development of the games and the reality of what the games is kind of being lost. The reality of what death has been lost. She's an embodiment of just how desensitized the Capitol is to kids dying and district people dying. And like I said, she is the worst person ever because she has all 3 points of this disastrous triangle going on.
It shows you exactly where the Capitol's come from the 10th games, the 50th. You can see exactly how dark and twisted it's got. Because in the previous book, when we were talking about Ballad, a lot of the kids were like, well, is this right? The war's over, and there were calls to axe the whole thing. And you can really see how we've gone from, do we really need to do this, to, oh my God, yes, let's kill these kids. Don't clip that. Just don't clip that. But that's how it feels. It's the big embodiment. But I feel like I'm gonna knock a percentage point off, and I'm gonna call her 99%.
Okay.
Purely because she hasn't actively killed anyone that we know of.
That we know of.
That we know of. She did not pull the trigger. She did not do the murdering. That was a peacekeeper. Right? I can imagine Drusilla pushing a rival down the stairs, Dynasty style, rather than actual cold-blooded murder with a knife or poison. And I feel like she's as bad as Snow in terms of her opinions on other people and on districts, but Snow has killed people and she hasn't. So I'm probably going to go 99%. But then let's compare Drusilla to Effie, the only other escort we know about. Does that bump her back up to 100%? She is crueler, a lot crueler.
She's horrid, Rachel.
She's horrid.
She's horrid.
She's a horrible, horrible person. But
yeah.
I don't know. It's always her words. She uses her words and not actions. Do you know what I mean? Well, she does. She beats F. I'm forgetting about the fact that she literally pulls a freaking whip out on Maisie Lee. Yes, 100%. I forgot about that bit.
How did you forget about it? That's the one main bit I think of when we talk about her being an arsehole. I think that's the main bit that comes to my mind.
I don't know how I forgot about that bit. I don't know. Then, yeah, do you know what I mean? Would she have whipped Maisie Lee to death? Probably. Yeah, in that violent rage.
If she'd been given the chance.
Yeah, she would have done. How far would she have gone if Plutarch hadn't pulled her off? Yeah, 100%. Sod it. Yeah. There we go. We have a verdict.
Yeah, we got there.
But we have made it to our lovely little palate cleanser if you want to clear your mind from Drusilla. Because, I think it was time to try out a new system for our episodes, where we discuss the general book opinions that we have at the end, just to clear us away. I think it's because the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes episodes kind of broke me. They were all so heavy all of the time. It was doom and gloom and death and murder and highly immoral experiments everywhere you looked. And I guess we have a whole other prequel book to get through, and maybe if we lighten things up a bit at the end, it might, leave us feeling better after we filmed on a Saturday afternoon. So, light-hearted, random book question to clear Drusilla from our minds. What's the last 5-star book you read, and why did you rate it 5 stars? And I ask this because I cannot remember the last time I read a 5-star book. And I need recommendations.
Hold on. I can't remember the exact title of it. So I as you know, Rachel, I was reading Swift and Saddled last week.
Yes.
Which is in the Rebel Blue Ranch Lila Sage series. And I know most people wouldn't put it as a 5-star read because it's just a nice fluffy romance, but I'm gonna put it as a 5-star read because when I was reading it, it's obviously about a divorced woman who kind of goes to Wyoming and then meets the cowboy and all this stuff that deals with it. And the week that I was reading it, my divorce went through, so
Yay!
I really needed that book at that time in my life, and I didn't know that's what the book like narrative was about when I started reading it. I was very surprised. I was very pleasantly surprised, and then the divorce went
She probably
through,
should have
and
warned
I
you,
was like,
shouldn't I?
yeah, and I was like, this is
I
like
should have
really
warned you,
no,
actually.
but it was really good. It was really good timing. It was really good for me.
Don't try to find mine.
And for that respect, I am calling it a 5-star read because I think that book will always
Yeah.
stay with me, and I will always have like that sort of attachment to that book. So that's what I'm going to
Yeah,
say. It's a
it
5-star
hit at
read,
the
and it's
right
a good
time.
series. If you like a fluffy cowboy romance, then I recommend going to read that.
I'm trying to go through my history to see what was the last book I actually read and rated 5-star. So I'm currently on my story graph right now and just seeing what I have rated. I've read 45 books this year and 10 of them were
And you
mangas.
go,
So I read them all in one day.
wow.
So, they're actually more than 10. It's probably about 15 of them
Uh,
are mangas. Most of them are fluffy little romances from Kindle Unlimited. I'm not going to lie to
uh,
you. Sometimes that just is what you need.
uh,
Out of my 211 books that I have ranked on Storygraph, have I rated any as 5 stars? Have I rated any? Is probably a good question. To be fair, I did really enjoy the War of Lost Hearts series. I'd probably put book 1 of that as 5 stars. That was
okay.
Daughter of No Worlds. But is it 5-star or was it 4.5-star? Because that woman did piss me off so much. But that's just good. If the villain pisses you off, that's just good writing,
Yeah.
right? To be fair, I did really enjoy the third book in the Rebel Blue Branch series. It's not the one you talked about, it's the one after.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be fine. Oh, to be fair, I did read Elif Shafak's The 40 Rules of Love last year, and that
Uh,
was a 5-star, phenomenal. Um,
uh,
so that was a really, really good one. But the second one the third one, the Rebel Blue Branch series, the same way that you read the one with the divorce,
yeah.
and it sort of like hit at the right time. I was reading Lost and Lassoed, which is number 3.
Uh,
Lassoed,
uh,
Lassoed, however I'm going to pronounce it. I'm too northern for this. And in that one, the girl loses her job and she's trying
uh,
to figure out what on earth to do with her life from that point on. And she takes the job being like the nanny, kind of just like babysitting for one of the guys, and
uh,
love blossoms from there. And I think I just really like appreciated the fact that Teddy had so much on her plate, and she was looking after a family member, which is not something that I do, but something one of my friends
uh,
does. And she was still trying to figure out, okay, well, where does my life go from here? Everything that I thought I had figured out is now no longer figured out. And obviously, I left my regular standard retail job in October to do self-employed freelancey stuff full time. And
uh,
just, when you're figuring out, like, okay, cool, well, how do I upgrade from here? This is
uh,
good to keep me going right now, but what's the end goal? What's the future goal? Where are
uh,
we seeing our lives in 5, 10, 15 years' time? What do we want to be achieving then? So what do we need to start doing now?
yeah.
That was a really, really good book for helping sort of like figure out some of that in my own mind. And so I probably put that as a
Okay.
5-star. And that was because I think it's one of those then that just hit at the right time.
Yeah, I
It
love it.
just
I love
hit
it when they
right.
hit at the right time. Yeah.
Yeah. And
It
the
makes
thing
it, yeah.
is, they don't need to be fantastically written to just hit at the right time. But I
Uh,
did get so sucked in. I think, I don't know, I was watching someone do like a big wrap up of a lot of the TikTok book talk drama that came around um last year. So how
uh,
everyone does a book wrap up at the end of the year a lot of the time of how many books they read in a year. Someone was doing a wrap up of all the comments, and someone said they read 200 books in a year, and they showed the
oof,
books, and they were all like romances, quite easy to read and stuff. And I'm like, you know what?
yeah.
If you have a job where you can spend all day either reading the physical book or listening to the audiobook, and
Uh,
especially if you listen to an audiobook on 2 times speed, I can
uh,
see exactly how you get through that many books. if you like don't listen to podcasts or watch YouTube and stuff and you just like focus. But someone made a comment about how those books didn't count because they were all romances and they should pick up a real book. And I was like, excuse you, sir. Just because I'm not reading freaking Chaucer does not mean my books don't count.
Yeah.
So I do read the majority of fluffy romances in a year, and I just have a grand old time.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are not less valid than anyone else.
I know we're having like a big discussion between just ourselves, because obviously we are friends outside the podcast, about the Powerless series, because I know you've finished Fearless and I'm like, I think like 3/4 of the way through it, and I keep hitting like these big sections, and I sent you a voice note last night. I was like, no, she didn't. Did she actually? I didn't think that was actually good. Oh my god, I'm having like a crisis, and you're like, you haven't even hit the big.
Haven't hit the big bit yet.
The big bit, yeah. I'm like,
it's
okay,
wilder.
I feel like
it's wilder.
I'm already having a breakdown. But would you? I know you said that you felt like Fearless was the best book out of you know, Powerless, Reckless, like the 3 main books. Would you consider that a 5-star read, or is it more kind of like a 3-4?
I considered it a 4-star read.
Okay.
I think because I felt like I don't know. This is where I struggle with star ratings as well. I like to give a star rating, but I like to know why I'm giving a star rating. So I had a friend who read them, and I think she loved them. She rated them like 5 stars, loved everything, loved the novellas as well.
I haven't read those.
I haven't. I read Fear. No, I haven't read Fearful. I read Powerful. So I haven't read the final one yet. And I felt like, to me, the first book was like 3.5 and the second book was like a 3. And then the third was a 4. Because I felt like the things that I felt were lacking in the first 2 books came around in book 3. And I felt like I was drawing parallels with other books that I'd read previous. So I was drawing parallels with the crossing of the desert with things that happen in a different book series that you haven't read yet. So I won't tell you. But it just felt a bit similar. But I can also see, though, on the flip side, how that was her 5-star read, because going to read a YA romantasy when you're so bogged down in adult romantasy. And I had this conversation with someone I was getting recommendations from in Waterstones. Because I went, if I have to read one more unnecessary sex scene just for the sake of this being a spicy book talk book, I'm going to throw it out of the window.
That's funny.
And so, with it being YA and that not being a concern, and so there being more cute, wholesome moments, and more about the plot and the politics versus, you know, how many times can they bang in the throne room? Like, that was nice. That was refreshing.
Yeah.
And I can see how, if that's the first time that you've read YA, without this idea of it being spicy and there being a spice rating, I don't know, I have a big thing. Maybe it's because I'm ace and I honestly I've started just skipping over some sex scenes. If I'm like, you know what, like, and I am usually a person who has to restart a movie so I hear every single word. Like, if I come in and the movie has started 5 minutes before, unless I've seen it before, I'm not watching it. I have to know everything. And so for me to skim over sections because I am fed up of this next chapter adding nothing to the plot, I can see how something YA would be like the 5-star, just what you need to get out of that headspace. But I wouldn't, for me, rate it as 5 stars. But I do think it's the best book. Because I feel like every question that I had from you have you? Do you know this bit yet?
I can
maybe
bleep it.
Maybe you do. So you know how in the first book Payden gets like roped into the revolution, and I was like, that was too easy.
Let me tell you what I know. And for anybody who hasn't read it, I will just bleep this section. It'll be a really long bleep.
And then I get to this big plot wrap up at the end, and I'm like, even to bits that you haven't read yet. And I'm like, well, that explains that thing that I had an issue with. And that explains that thing that I had an issue with. And that
Right.
explains that thing that I had an issue with.
Okay.
So it felt like you had to read book 4 to get the payoff for the plot in the other books. But I still see the first book being weakened by not hinting at the end. Does that make sense? Like, there was never it never felt like something I was missing that I hadn't been told yet. It just felt like a plot hole.
Okay, we'll leave the powerless discussions now because we don't want to. I'm gonna have to just bleep most of that anyway.
We can cut it out if we need to. It's an interesting discussion.
We are kind of thinking about doing a powerless mini series, aren't we? Like, just not as many episodes.
Not many episodes.
It's very more like broad discussions. If that's something people would be interested in, please let us know, because that's on our we might do list. So if there's going to be any interest in that, that would be great. Thanks so much, guys, for sticking around for episode 20, the start of our sunrise discussions. And we have started it with Drusilla. And I know that the next episode 21, is going to be Lenore Dove. So stick around to hear our conversations about how she basically gets her boyfriend sent off to his potential death. So thanks so much, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for listening to our podcast, and don't forget to let us know your thoughts on all of our potential assholes.
No matter what platform you're listening to us on, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, upvote, and all of that stuff.
If you like what we do and want to find out more, all of our platforms are listed in the description or show notes. We're a 2-person team, so any support or feedback is always greatly received.
Tune in next time to Once Upon a Red Flag, because the district kids that she looks after are beasts and horrible and savage little piglets, okay? And she's married to a man who has a reptile fetish and licks toes. Please, someone make it make sense. Was any of this really the easiest choice? So does anyone want to hazard a guess exactly how many Bloody Marys we think she has had at this point?